Welcome to Replenish the Atmosphere of Discovery, where we discover the Master's plan for our lives. Today's session is titled Impact. Today's session is titled Impact. So influence and impact both produce change, right? Influence is used to refer to indirect or intangible changes, and influence can often be applied gradually over time, right? But impact is the powerful and direct result of that influence, most times causing an immediate change. Okay, so we want to focus on the impact of who and what we influence, and also the impact of those people and things that influence us. So there are things that have impacted our lives in a negative way because we figured just because we weren't accountable to other people's actions toward us, then that meant that we are not accountable for how long we allowed it to take over our lives, right? So we are accountable for how far and how long we let people and circumstances continue to impact us. And we also want to take a look at being accountable to how we ourselves impact the world. Are we creating positive, beneficial changes to the world, or are we impacting the world in a negative way? Okay. And remember, impact is that powerful and direct result of an influence. So, some of us, when we begin to think about the things that have impacted our lives, we go straight to those negative, impactful stories, right? We get so focused on wanting someone to blame, wanting to be vindicated, wanting someone to respond to our pain, our fears, and our worries, that we don't realize that waiting for someone to do this becomes our prison. It can lock us up mentally, physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. Our minds won't think past somebody taking responsibility. We need somebody to answer for this thing. We start to live with it so long that even when we do get a response, even when we do get someone to take responsibility, we don't even realize we're still stuck there because we've allowed that desire for a response to dictate our life and become attached to our identity. So now we are not who we are what has happened to us, right? And so some people truly need to be heard and seen, and they're able to release and let those things go. But other people, they use that lack of recognition, that lack of an apology as an excuse not to be the best version of themselves. And we cannot wait on people, because people will go to the grave not apologizing, not owning up to what they did. We can't rely on people to be the reason why we don't live the life that we were destined to live. Like I said, you have some people that is what they need. They just need someone to acknowledge them, to acknowledge their pain, acknowledge their fear, acknowledge their concern or their worry, and they're able to let it go. And then you have the others that use that lack of recognition, that lack of whatever they did not receive, to cause them to not be who God created them to be. If you are already impatient, if you are already lazy and selfish and angry, then a circumstance coming along where you can create a logical explanation for your bad character, it can seem to outsiders that, oh, you need time, right? You need time and you need a space to heal, right? But some people don't want to heal. They don't want to go through that process. They want an excuse. They want a way out of being responsible for their bad behavior. And so when a situation happens to them that is bad, that is negative, they use that as an excuse for people to okay their bad behavior. And hopefully we're not one of those people. And then that cycle continues. Their bad behavior begin to impact those around them, right? And if those around them are not aware or emotionally intelligent, then it will begin to impact them negatively as well. And so I've heard this phrase that hurt people, right? But that doesn't have to be true just because everybody said it, just because it sounds good. It doesn't have to be true. Just because you were hurt doesn't mean you have an excuse to hurt other people. You have a reason to, but that doesn't justify it, right? So stop letting what has impacted you in a negative way cause you to negatively impact other people, okay? And so when we are taught not to form our own perspectives but to act, look, feel, and think like the influences outside of us. We become affected by outsiders more than our innate desire to be authentic, okay? You were not born to hurt people. That is not your created purpose, right? Something or somebody impacted your life in such a way that you agreed that this was the response that you wanted to give. Even when our children respond harshly, they saw it or they felt it from somewhere. Something influenced them to respond that way. And so we have to teach them by example, not just tell them that they have another way to respond to negative behavior, right? And some of us have never heard or seen another way, but there are other ways to respond. There is another way other than negatively that things can impact your life, okay? So the impact is the effect of the influence, okay? When you have accepted the influence, good or bad, and it produces an immediate change of perspective, an immediate response, then that influence has impacted your life, okay? And there is something that is received in your mind, right, that either adds to you or takes away from you. And however you respond tells you which one. The immediate results you see from your influence is the impact. All right. So when you are influenced by the wrong people, the wrong thoughts, how you respond to that determines the impact that it will have on your life, whether it's good or bad. How you respond matters. Children can grow up in the same household, or you people can grow up in the same neighborhood and have different results because they had the same experiences, right? But their experiences did not influence them the same way. Okay. Some experiences don't change your perspective, while others impact you greatly. So we must be mindful of our immediate response to negative and positive influences. Sometimes a positive influence can impact us in a negative way, and sometimes a negative influence can impact you in a positive way. And it depends on your response. For example, if you were bullied growing up, which is a negative thing, right? Being bullied can make you stronger, right? It can make you more assertive. It can make you more fair, right? So that's a negative influence having a positive outcome. But you could also have a negative outcome from that same experience. If you were raised in a loving home that was disciplined, right? Where there was care and there was foundation, which is positive, right? You may decide you want a little bit more freedom and a little bit more excitement. So you want to go and hit the streets, right? So you have a positive influence that has a negative outcome. It all depends on how you respond to it. Okay. And if you think about the people that have helped shape your character, right? Some of the ones you didn't like were the ones that you needed. And some of the ones that you liked because they let you do whatever you wanted to do, they didn't impact you in a positive way. Their slackness and their, not paying attention to you, not being careful of what you were doing and where you were going, that could have impacted you in a negative way. So what kind of impact are you having on those under your leadership? Those that look up to you, right? Those that depend on your decision. What type of impact are you having? And remember that impact is the result of your influence. Okay. And so I want you to realize that you are influencing people, whether you want to or not, whether you like it or not. Whatever you do or say is causing someone to have a thought, a feeling, or action, right? And so that also means that whatever you see, whatever you hear or feel is influencing your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. But the question is, are you dealing with the negative things and then embracing the positive, right? Or are you ignoring the negative and still trying to embrace the positive? If you are ignoring the negative and trying to embrace the positive, that's not working out too well, is it? Right? You must eliminate the negative to fully embrace the positive. You can't have both because you're going to always have that switch that you can go back to, right? There's always a chance to dig up that negative feeling, to dig up that negative thought, to remind you of that negative action, to trigger you, to flip it and then reuse it to come back and torment you. Those strong feelings and emotions, they try to influence you to let them be in control. Okay. And so, how do you keep negative influences from impacting you? Number one, you have to figure out what they're attached to. Figure out what is causing you to agree that this influence has the right to direct your life, right? Is it a trigger? Is it a trauma that it's attached to? Is it a fantasy that it's attached to? Is it some unknown emotion? And when I say unknown emotion, it may be an emotion from the womb. It may be an emotion that is repressed, which is subconscious, or suppressed, which is conscious, right? Find out what that negative influence is attached to. If your personality is influenced by your injury or your trauma, then your mindset will change as well, right? Because your mindset influences your thoughts and your feelings and behaviors, how you view the world. This is what happens when you have a different mindset. When you have a flawed mindset, you have a flawed view or perspective of the world. It can impact how you frame your world, right? Which we have the power to do. If our mindsets are flawed, our lives will be the manifestation of that negative impact. Okay. When you agree with the negative influence, it is because something or someone has made it more believable than a positive one, more acceptable. Okay. Something in you is giving it more weight, it's giving it more pull, it's giving it more authority over your life. And that's why we deal with what we feel, so that we don't leave residue that can be attracting negativity. All right. You don't even realize most times that you are agreeing with it, right? But it's attaching to something else in your life. It's attaching to a memory. It's attaching to a trigger, whatever it's attaching to. And you're saying, yes, it's okay. I receive it. Right. And we really don't want to do the hard stuff, which is digging and releasing and moving on. But as hard as it seems to do the work, you're happier for it. Okay. It causes you to live life intentionally. You become more intentional with your time. You become more intentional with the people that you deal with, the people that you allow to influence you. And you pay attention to if you're moving in the right direction. You're not just aimlessly, walking through life. Okay. You're not just existing, but you are living when you choose to deal with what you are feeling. And some people struggle with directing their thoughts. So the things that are influencing their mind have full reign to direct their feelings, which affects what they do, and it affects how they see things, right? You can be influenced in the opposite direction of your success. When you address what the influences are attaching themselves to, you can begin to see the pattern and the impact that it has had on your life. Okay. When you address what those influences are attaching themselves to, you can see the pattern and the impact that it has had on your life. So, for instance, let's say you're watching a movie and the actor experiences something that you went through, and it shows the same result in your life as the movie, then you are more inclined to agree that this will always be the outcome, instead of believing someone telling you that, hey, there's a different way. Your life doesn't have to be that way, right? Because it attached to that negative experience. It was the same experience and they had the same outcome. So you agree with it, right? If you want to change, you need a new influence. You can't keep watching the same things. You can't keep listening to the same things. You can't stay around the same people if they're impact your life in a negative way. And some people can get addicted to the sadness and the depression and the hopelessness and the fear, right? And because they've made that a part of their lives and have given it full authority over their thoughts and feelings, they're now in covenant with these emotions, right? They're in a marriage with these negative emotions because of the impact of that influence that they've had on your life, right? But you have to divorce those things and take your authority back and stop letting them rule your life, okay? It impacts how you think, right? So you can't even think without them. They have literally become a part of your identity. and you need something else to agree with that will keep you going in the right direction. You need an influence that attracts positivity so that it can impact you. You can allow it, because you can stop it. Just because it's a positive influence does not mean it will positively affect your life or impact your life if you don't allow it to, right? Your response to that influence will impact you in a positive way, right? So once you learn to think right, you can direct your feelings and your actions. And some of you may be in that place where you've had a change of heart, right? But those feelings and those thoughts are still attaching to those places that you've grown apart from, but there's the memory is still there. That part takes time, right? Because you have to be aware of when these thoughts and feelings occur, right? You have to redirect or eliminate them. And you have to do that until it becomes a habit, right? Because remember, you're used to thinking and feeling whatever you want, not directing, not managing it at all. So when you decide to change, now you have to be conscious. You have to be aware of when those thoughts are taking you to a place you don't want to go, when they are attaching to other things, right? That is causing you to have these feelings that you don't want to have. Okay. And so you eliminate those unwanted thoughts and feelings by disarming them. You eliminate those unwanted thoughts and feelings by disarming them. What gave them their power? What was it that they were attaching themselves to? Was it attached to a strength of yours or an inner vow? If you don't know what inner vows are, it's those I will never. A lot of those are inner vows. I will never let somebody do this to me, right? So anytime somebody look like, sound like, act like they're going to do that, you cut them off, right? And we're not talking about common sense. We're talking about being irrational about it, not really giving people a chance because of your hurt, because of your unhealed hurt and unhealed trauma, right? So was it attached to a strength of yours, right? And I'm going to tell you how negative influences attract themselves to your strength. Let's say your strength is the ability to be focused and determined no matter what comes your way. Let's say that's a strength you have, right? Well, an unwanted thought will attach to that strength to build itself up. Does that make sense? So now you're going to be determined to make somebody pay for crossing you, right? Because you're determined and you're focused. So I'm going to take this negative feeling and I'm going to apply it to the strength you have to remain focused and determined, right? And now this negative influence has been built up on your strength, okay? Another way, let's say your strength is your imagination. You can come up with an idea in a second. So a feeling of fear will attach itself to that and build itself up using your imagination. So you should be aware of your strengths, which the enemy wants you not to acknowledge, not to accept. He highlights your weaknesses, right? Which we know he uses our weaknesses to tempt us, but he also uses your strengths to build up negativity, okay? He uses your weakness to tempt you, and he uses your strength to build, okay? So you must be aware of what is attaching to your strengths that's negative, because if that is weak, if it attached to something you are strong at, that you have a great ability at, it can remain strong, right? Because that's your strength. So it becomes its strength when you accept it, when you allow it to influence you, okay? Your emotions and feelings are attached to what is influencing them, okay? Anxiety is hope with a negative influence, right? Anxiety is influenced by hopelessness and fear. Those are the negative influences, right? Fear is influenced by the unknown. When you don't know something, when you're not sure of something, it starts to create a fear because you don't know. Anger, it is influenced by misguided pain and despair and misunderstanding, right? And if you are feeling feelings without a reason, right, there may be some underlying issues that haven't been dealt with, and leaving those things unresolved can cause random feelings at inappropriate time. You'll be laughing when you should be crying. You'll be crying when you should be laughing. I'm not talking about the tears of joy, like crying uncontrollably. And that's what happens when you leave things unresolved and your emotions go just completely don't know what to do at what time. Okay. And so we have to do a little digging. We have to ask ourselves the hard questions, and we have to do the work to protect our mind and manage our emotions in a healthy way so that we can impact this world in a positive way, right? We have to be mindful of our influences and how they are impacting our lives. It's doing something, okay? Whatever you do, whatever you say, it's doing something to somebody else's life. We have to keep in mind how we're influencing other people, right? Even bad situations can have a positive impact on us if we use them correctly, okay? It may not have been our fault, things that happen, but what we do with that matters. How we respond matters, okay? We're supposed to leave a mark in this world, right? And in the lives of those who come in contact with us. And hopefully that impact is a positive one, okay? And so a lot of you don't even realize how impactful you are because you have dismissed your worth. You have, right, diminished your value. And so you need to go back to what are your strengths? What are you good at? Right? And if you can't answer that readily, that means you have diminished your value. Your value has probably become whatever someone else told you or whatever has influenced you, whatever experiences that you have gone through. Okay. So you have to realize that you are impacting somebody's life. It's just, is it in a positive way or is it in a negative way? And how are your influences impacting you? What has it done for you? Has it benefited you? Right? Has it caused you to be stagnant? Has it caused you to procrastinate? Look at all of them, right? And look at what they all are attached to. And make sure that those negative influences are not attached to your strengths. Because as strong and as powerful as you are at that thing, that's how strong and how powerful that negative influence will affect your life. So there's a reason why you overanalyze. I don't know if it's the perfectionism, if it's the fear of not being perfect, of not doing something right. That can come from being rejected. If you deal with rejection, you'll do that a lot, overanalyze until you don't get it done. I think even people that are analytical, like that's a strength. That's a strength to be logical sometimes, but it can also cause a negative influence to attach to that. Veronica said, cause you not to complete things. Okay, so being analytical is not bad, but if something negative attaches to it, it will be bad for you. So you got to learn how to separate the negativity from that strength that you have. And I want you all to keep in mind that God intentionally created our minds to be able to solve these things, right? It's on purpose. And so when we fail to utilize what he has created, okay, if you think about the animals and the plants, they automatically do what they're supposed to do. We're the only ones that don't want to go through our process, right? We don't want to do it. When something changes in their climate, they adapt to it, right? And they continue to grow, they continue to prosper. We're the only ones that will use things. And yes, it's because, you know, we're superior to plants and animals, but it almost kind of feel like sometimes you just need to be a plant. You just need to be a tree and do what you were created to do, and without having your own mind, because sometimes that can be a fault, right? Because we're not doing what it is we were created to do. And so we have a mind where we can go back into and say, okay, this is how I feel when this happens. Like, what are you feeling while you're going through that, whatever that is? Okay. When somebody says something, that emotion comes up. Why is it coming up? And you can do it right in that moment. You don't have to respond right away. You can do it right in that moment. Wait, why am I feeling angry? Nope, hold on. I understand what you're saying. Let me process this. Okay. Why am I getting angry? What is that attached to? Before you respond, and sometimes it's good to walk away. Just walk away so you can do your process and you don't have to respond. There's this thing where we feel we have to do something right now. No, you don't. Process what you need to process and then come back and do it in a way that is beneficial to you and beneficial to those that are listening or looking. And we don't want to be accountable like that. We don't want to be responsible for our own actions. We always want somebody else to blame. No, I'm like this because of you. Nobody can make you do anything, right? Or make you feel anything. What you feel is determined by the way that you are thinking, okay? And so as bad as something may be that we experience, somebody else can experience the same thing and not have the same reaction. That's how you know that it's a choice, you know? And even if you respond the wrong way, if you're still alive, you have the opportunity to respond the right way, right? And it's called repentance, okay? God, forgive me. That was not right. And now I want to do it the right way. Not, God, forgive me, but the next time this happened, I'm gonna respond to that's not repentance. Repentance is you choosing to believe and stand on that it's a different way, and I'm gonna choose a different way from here on out. Okay. I think sometimes in like church culture, we make people believe just saying I'm sorry is repentance and that gives us forgiveness. No, God throws that sin into the sea of forgetfulness when you don't do it no more. But when you do it again, you're reminding him again, right? So be logical in that. If somebody forgets something and you do it again, you put it back on their mind. Okay. So we want to be mindful. I think a lot of times we can be devalued to a point where we feel like, not that it's true, but because of your thoughts, you feel like you're not impacting people, and you are. Even in you accepting the negative influences, the way you start acting because of that is impacting people. Okay. And so we want to disarm the enemy. We want to take away his strength because he only have the strength that we give him. Okay. He only has the authority and the power that we allow him to have. And we want to take that back. Okay. And he uses emotions, he uses events, he uses sin to cause him to gain authority over people, over territories, over regions. When people often say, oh, how can there be a God and all of these children are being killed and these people are not having food? It's not God that did that. It's the people, right? It's the people that's doing the evil to the other people. It's not God doing that. It's not how can God, it's how can those people agree with these heinous things in their minds, right? Because it's a thought first before they act. How can they agree to these things? And if you can start digging into why and how, and then you find out how far it's been going, right? What strength has been attaching itself to, even in that whole community, right? It's attaching itself to the strength of these people, but it's causing these negative influences to impact this whole community. And so you have a whole community that is downtrodden. You have a whole community that is being incarcerated at young ages. You have a whole community that's full of incest and molestation, right? Because it's attached to strengths, right? It attached to strengths, tempted them with the weaknesses, and there it goes, right? So even if a negative thing happened to you, or if you've been influenced negatively, pull it away, right? Detach from it. Stop letting it attach itself to where you are strong. Separate it. Use your strength for good to benefit and impact the world and eliminate that negativity. Okay. And definitely, if you are the one that is always negative, that is always thinking the worst, you have to do something about it. What is that attached to? Why do you think that something bad is always going to happen, right? You have to do the digging to find out where that comes from and decide, am I going to keep this or am I going to choose another positive thought, right? And if you're around people that is influencing you to continue to think the negative way, what are you going to do about it? Like, those are choices that you have. Those are decisions that you have to make. What are you watching? Is what you watching negative? Okay. Sometimes you can get on social media and you just get scrolling, so you don't even realize how much your brain is taking in and how much all those things that you're seeing is impacting your life. When you finally shut it off, it's impacting your thoughts. It starts to impact how you behave, right? So it's not good to even. I know technology is good, but for some things, but it's not good to just aimlessly do that because something is happening. You're being influenced, right? And you don't even realize you've made these agreements with negative, like, oh, that's nice. Oh, now I know what to do because this is what I saw, and you do it subconsciously. You don't even realize that you're doing it. So be aware of what you are feeding yourself. Okay. Don't just do things just because you see everybody else doing it. You don't know how it is impacting your life, especially when you don't think about what you're thinking about. Like, how do I think? What type of thinker am I? Right? Have you ever asked yourself that? What type of thinker am I? Am I a person that always think the worst? Am I a person that is optimistic, that always finds the good in things? Right? What type of thinker are you? And then see how that correlates to how you feel. Okay. Am I always feeling like all the bad stuff? I never have a good emotion. Okay. It's attached to the way that you think. Okay. Well, where did that come from? Is it the type of movies I'm watching? Is it the type of people I'm around? Is it my family? Right? What is it attached to? And keep digging until you find the root of it, where it first began. Process that and then come back. Sometimes it's not easy because it depends on the magnitude of what someone has done, how long it takes for you to separate that, right? Because sometimes you just have evil people. It ain't the devil, they just evil. And they're evil because of whatever experiences they've had, good or bad, and whichever way they decided to go, whatever they decided to agree with, that's what they agree with. And that's where, where I said people will try to blame God for the bad things that people do. And it's the people's choice to do these things. And so, yeah, we have to be mindful of that. Well, you all be blessed. Have a blessed weekend, and I will see you all next Friday at 3 o'clock. This should be up today if you want to go back and revisit some of the things that we discussed.